Okay, so
He
I
knows.
need you to understand something right off the bat. When I tell people this story, they always give me that look. You know the one. That holy crap, are you serious look? And yeah, I'm dead serious. This actually happened to me last Thanksgiving, and I swear to God, I'm still processing it. Like, even now, sitting here telling you this, my hands are shaking a little bit. So, buckle up because this gets wild. It started the way most disasters start, honestly. Normal. Too normal. I was driving home from the airport, exhausted as hell from a 6-hour flight from Seattle. My husband Marcus had stayed behind at his stepdad's place in Connecticut because Frank, that's the stepdad, he was in hospice care, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They'd given him maybe 2 weeks, tops. Marcus and I had talked about it, and we agreed I'd fly out early for work stuff, then come back for Thanksgiving. We'd spend it together as a family. Frank, Marcus, me. One last holiday, you know? So I'm driving up this winding road to Frank's house, this old colonial that's been in disrepair for like a decade, and I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say to Frank. How do you even talk to someone who's dying? Do you pretend everything's fine? Do you get all sentimental? I'm running through scripts in my head like I'm about to audition for the worst play ever written. And then I pull into the driveway and Marcus's car isn't there. I sit there for a second, engine running, staring at the empty spot where his Subaru should be. I text him, "Hey babe, just got here, where are you?" No response. I wait like 5 minutes. Nothing. So I figure, okay, maybe he ran to the store. Maybe Frank needed medication or something. I grab my suitcase and head inside. The front door's unlocked, which isn't unusual for Frank. The guy still lives like it's 1975, thinks nobody's gonna rob him because this is a good neighborhood. I step inside and immediately it hits me how quiet it is. Not peaceful quiet, wrong quiet. Like when you walk into a room and you know something's off, but you can't put your finger on it. "Marcus?" I call out. Nothing. "Frank?" Still nothing. I walk through the foyer into the living room, and that's when I see him. Frank. He's in his hospice bed, which they'd set up right there in the living room so he could watch TV. He's awake, barely, staring at the ceiling. His breathing's all raspy and wet-sounding, and he looks even thinner than when I left 3 days ago. "Frank?" I say, softer now, walking over to him. "Hey, it's me, Sarah. Where's Marcus?" He turns his head real slow and looks at me, and I swear the expression on his face, it's like he's seeing a ghost. His eyes go wide and he tries to say something, but all that comes out is this horrible wheezing sound. I grab the water cup next to his bed, hold the straw to his lips. "It's okay, take your time." He takes a tiny sip, winces, and then finally manages to croak out 2 words. "He left." "What do you mean he left?" I ask, and I can hear my voice getting higher, tighter. Frank closes his eyes, like even talking is exhausting him. "This morning," he whispers, "said he had to go, said you'd understand." I feel my stomach drop. "Go where? Did he say where?" Frank shakes his head, just barely. "Didn't say, just left." Okay, so now I'm starting to panic. I pull out my phone and call Marcus, straight to voicemail. I call again, voicemail. I send like 5 texts. "Where are you? Are you okay? Why did you leave Frank alone? I'm freaking out. Please call me." Nothing. Radio silence. And now I'm standing in this dim, depressing living room with a dying man who can barely speak, and my husband has apparently vanished into thin air. I try to think logically. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he went to visit his mom, who lives like 2 hours away. But none of that makes sense because he would have told me. He would have left a note, something. I search the house looking for any kind of explanation. There's nothing. No note, no sign of struggle, nothing out of place except for the fact that my husband is gone. I go back to Frank. Did he seem upset? Was he acting weird? Frank's eyes are closed now, and for a second I think he's fallen asleep, but then he mumbles, "Asked me something about his mother." My heart skips. What about her? Frank's breathing gets more labored, and I can see this conversation is wearing him out, but I need answers. "Old question," Frank says, "from long time ago." I'm about to press him for more when his monitor starts beeping. Not the flatline beep you see in movies, but this insistent, rhythmic alarm. I grab my phone and call the hospice nurse, whose number is stuck to the fridge with a magnet. She answers on the second ring, thank God, and I'm stumbling over my words trying to explain. She tells me to check his oxygen, make sure the line isn't kinked. I do, it's fine. She says she'll come by in 20 minutes to check on him. Those 20 minutes feel like hours. I'm sitting next to Frank's bed, holding his hand because I don't know what else to do, and I'm still trying to call Marcus every few minutes. Nothing. My mind's going to dark places. What if he got in an accident? What if something happened to him? But then why would his phone go straight to voicemail? Unless it's dead, or unless he turned it off. But why would he turn it off? The nurse arrives, this sweet woman named Patricia, who's probably in her 60s. She checks Frank over, adjusts his meds, and tells me his vitals are stable, just a little episode. Then she looks at me with these kind, knowing eyes and asks, "Where's Marcus, honey?" And that's when I lose it. I just start crying right there in front of this stranger, telling her, "I don't know, he left, he won't answer his phone, I don't understand what's happening." Patricia makes me a cup of tea, which feels absurd given the circumstances, but it's actually kind of nice. She sits with me at the kitchen table and says, "Men process grief differently. Sometimes they run from it." I nod, but I'm thinking, okay, but you don't just abandon your dying stepdad and not tell your wife. That's not processing grief. That's something else. After Patricia leaves, I'm alone again with Frank. I make myself some dinner, which I barely touch, and try to figure out what to do. I think about calling the police, but what would I even say? My husband left his dying stepdad's house and won't answer his phone? That's not exactly a missing person case. I think about calling Marcus's mom, Helen, but I don't want to worry her if it's nothing, so I just wait. Around 9 p.m., Frank wakes up again. He seems a little more alert this time, which the nurse said might happen as the pain meds wear off. "Sarah," he says, and his voice is clearer now. "Yes, I'm here," I say, walking over. He looks at me for a long moment, and then he says something that makes my blood run cold. He knows. "What do you know?" I ask, leaning closer. Frank's eyes fill with tears, which I've never seen before. This man is old-school stoic, never shows emotion. "About his real father," Frank whispers. "I told him. I shouldn't have, but I'm dying, and I thought he deserved to know." I literally have to sit down. I pull up the chair next to his bed and just stare at him. "You're telling me Marcus isn't who he thinks he is?" Frank nods. "We were going to tell him when he was older, but then the years passed and it got harder, and eventually we just never did. His dad, the man he thought he was his dad, he knew. He raised Marcus anyway. Good man. Better than me." "So you told Marcus this? Today? When he's already dealing with you dying?" I can hear the anger in my voice, but I can't help it. Frank winces. I know it was wrong. But I'm running out of time, Sarah. I thought he had a right to know where he came from." "And he just left? He didn't say anything?" Frank closes his eyes. "He was angry, said he needed to think, asked me who else knew. I told him his mother, obviously, and his Aunt Carol. That's it." Carol, Marcus's aunt on his mom's side. She lives about 3 hours north in Vermont. "Did he say he was going to see Carol?" I ask. Frank shrugs weakly. "Didn't say, but knowing Marcus, probably yes. She always told him the truth, even when we didn't want her to." I call Carol. It rings and rings, then goes to voicemail. I leave a message. "Carol, it's Sarah, Marcus's wife. If he's there, please have him call me. It's urgent." I try to sound calm, but I probably sound manic. I spend the night on the couch, dozing on and on, jumping awake every time I hear a sound. I keep checking my phone. Nothing from Marcus, nothing from Carol. Around 4 a.m., I finally fall into a deep sleep, and when I wake up, it's almost 9 and there's sun streaming through the windows. I check my phone immediately. One text from Marcus. I'm okay. Need time. Take care of Frank. I love you. That's it. I read it like 10 times, trying to decode some hidden meaning. Take care of Frank. I love you. It sounds like a goodbye, and that terrifies me. I make coffee and go check on Frank. He's awake, watching the morning news on mute. He texted me, I tell him, said he needs time. Frank nods like he expected this. He'll come back, he says, but he doesn't sound convinced. The day crawls by. I help Frank with his medications, try to get him to eat a little soup, change his sheets when he needs it. It's intimate and uncomfortable, but what else am I going to do? Leave him alone? Patricia comes by again in the afternoon, surprised to see me still solo. Still no Marcus? She asks gently. I shake my head. She gives me this look that's part pity, part understanding, and tells me I'm doing a good thing. That night, Frank's condition worsens. His breathing gets more labored. His skin looks gray. Patricia told me this might happen, that the end could come quickly. I call Marcus again. Voicemail. I text him. Your dad is dying. You need to come home. I don't even think about the irony of calling Frank his dad now that I know the truth. Around midnight, Carol calls me back. Finally. Sarah, I'm so sorry, she says. I just got your message. I've been dealing with a broken furnace all day. No cell service in the basement. Is everything okay? My throat tightens. Is Marcus there? There's a pause. Marcus? No, honey. Why would Marcus be here? I explain everything. The revelation about Frank being his biological father, Marcus leaving, the text. Carol listens without interrupting, and when I'm done, she sighs this long, heavy sigh. Oh, Frank, she says, and there's so much disappointment in her voice. I told Helen they needed to tell him years ago. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Do you have any idea where he might be? I ask, trying not to sound desperate. Carol thinks for a moment. There's a cabin. Helen and Frank used to take Marcus there when he was little, before Frank officially became his stepdad. It's in the Adirondacks, near Lake George, very remote. Helen sold it years ago, but Marcus always loved that place. Maybe he went there. Do you have an address? Carol gives me the address, or at least what she remembers of it. But Sarah, she adds, maybe give him the space he's asking for. This is a lot for him to process. I want to scream that it's a lot for me too, that I'm here playing nurse to a man I barely know, while my husband is having some kind of identity crisis. But I just say thank you and hang up. I look at Frank, who's sleeping fitfully now. I can't leave him, but I also can't just sit here not knowing where my husband is. I make a decision that's probably stupid, but feels necessary. I call Patricia and ask if she can stay with Frank for the next 24 hours. She's hesitant, says she has other patients, but I must sound really desperate because she eventually agrees to arrange for round-the-clock coverage through Thanksgiving. At 5 a.m., I'm in my car, driving north. It takes me almost 4 hours to get to Lake George and another hour of wrong turns down unmarked dirt roads before I find the cabin. And sure enough, Marcus's Subaru is parked out front. I sit in my car for a minute, trying to figure out what I'm going to say, but then I just get out and walk up to the door. I knock. No answer. I try the handle. Locked. Marcus, I call out. I know you're in there. Open the door. Nothing. I walk around to the back, and that's when I see him. He's sitting on the dock, staring out at the lake. It's freezing, probably 30 degrees, and he's just in a hoodie. I walk down to the dock, my boots crunching on the frost-covered grass, and sit down next to him. We don't say anything for a long time. Then finally, Marcus speaks. How'd you find me? His voice is flat, emotionless. Carol, I say. She remembered this place. He nods slowly. Of course she did. Your dad's dying, I say quietly. Like, really dying, maybe hours. Marcus flinches at the word dad, and I realize my mistake. Frank, I correct. Frank is dying. Marcus picks up a stone and throws it into the lake. It breaks the glassy surface with a plop. Did he tell you? He asks. Yeah, I say. He told me. Marcus laughs, but it's bitter, hollow. My whole life is a lie, Sarah. Everything I thought I knew about where I came from, who I am, it's all bullshit. I know, I say, and I reach for his hand. But he pulls away. That hurts more than I expected. Do you, though? He asks, turning to look at me for the first time. His eyes are red, swollen. He's been crying. Do you know what it's like to find out the man you thought was your hero, your actual dad who died when you were 8, wasn't even your father? That your mom lied to you your whole life? That Frank, who I've spent years resenting for trying to replace my dad, is actually my real father? No, I admit, I don't know what that's like. But I know what it's like to be terrified that my husband disappeared and won't talk to me. I know what it's like to take care of your dying father, sorry, Frank, alone, having no idea what I'm doing. My voice cracks. I know what it's like to feel completely helpless. Marcus's expression softens a little. I'm sorry, he says quietly. I just couldn't be there. I couldn't look at him and not feel this rage. And he's dying, and I don't want his last memories of me to be anger. So you'd rather his last memory be you abandoning him? I ask, and it comes out harsher than I intended. Marcus looks away. That's not fair. None of this is fair, I shoot back. But he's dying, Marcus. Whatever anger you feel, whatever betrayal, you can process that later. Right now, you have a chance to say goodbye. You might not get another one. We sit there in silence again. A bird calls out somewhere across the lake. Finally, Marcus stands up. Okay, he says, let's go. The drive back feels longer somehow. We stop once for gas and coffee, and Marcus finally tells me everything. How Frank called him into the bedroom that morning, said he had something to confess, how he'd braced himself for some story about an affair or a secret family, but nothing prepared him for the truth about his own identity. How he'd felt this wave of vertigo, like the ground disappeared beneath him. And then I thought about you, Marcus says, glancing at me, and I thought, what else don't I know? What else has been kept from me? I feel defensive immediately. I've never lied to you about anything, I say. I know, he says quickly, I know you haven't, but in that moment, everything felt like a lie. I felt like I didn't know who I was, so how could I be a good husband? How could I be anything? We get back to Frank's house around 3 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day. The hospice nurse meets us at the door, and her expression tells me everything. He's been asking for you, she says to Marcus. You should go in now. Marcus walks into the living room, and I hang back, giving them privacy. I can hear Marcus's voice, low and shaky. I'm here, Frank. I'm sorry I left. I can't hear Frank's response, but I see Marcus sit down next to the bed, and then his shoulders start shaking. He's crying. I turn away, go into the kitchen, and start pulling out ingredients for Thanksgiving dinner. It feels absurd making stuffing and cranberry sauce while a man is dying in the next room, but I need to do something with my hands. I need to feel normal, even if nothing is. An hour later, Marcus comes into the kitchen. His eyes are red, but calmer. He wants to see you, he says. I wipe my hands on a dish towel and follow him back. Frank looks even worse than this morning, if that's possible, but there's something peaceful about his expression now. Sarah, he rasps, come here. I kneel down next to the bed. Thank you, he whispers, for taking care of him, for bringing him back. I didn't do anything, I start to say, but Frank cuts me off with a small shake of his head. You did everything, he says. Then he looks at Marcus. I'm proud of you, always have been. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to tell you sooner. Marcus nods, tears streaming down his face. I forgive you, he manages to say. I love you, Dad. Frank smiles, and it's the first real smile I've seen from him in weeks. I love you too, son. He dies 4 hours later, just as the sun is setting. Marcus and I are both there, holding his hands. It's peaceful, quiet. Patricia checks his pulse, nods solemnly, and notes the time of death, 7:42 p.m., Thanksgiving. The next few days are a blur of funeral arrangements, phone calls, paperwork. Marcus's mom, Helen, flies in from Arizona, and there's this horrible, necessary conversation where Marcus confronts her about the lies. She cries, explains, apologizes. It's messy and painful, but by the end, there's at least understanding, if not forgiveness. The funeral is small, just family. Marcus gives a eulogy that makes everyone cry, talking about how Frank taught him to fish, to change a tire, to be a man. He wasn't perfect, Marcus says, but he was my father in every way that mattered, and I'm grateful for every moment we had. On the drive home, finally back to our own house in Seattle, Marcus reaches over and takes my hand. "I'm sorry for putting you through all that," he says. "I'm sorry for shutting you out." I squeeze his hand. "I don't have to apologize," I say, "but next time you have an existential crisis, maybe just tell me instead of disappearing." He laughs, and it sounds genuine. Deal. But here's the thing. Here's the part that still keeps me up at night, that makes this whole story less like a family drama and more like something else entirely. A week after the funeral, we're going through Frank's papers, settling his estate, and I find a letter. It's addressed to Marcus, sealed in an envelope, hidden in Frank's desk drawer under a stack of old tax returns. Marcus opens it, and his face goes white. "What?" I ask. "What does it say?" He hands it to me, speechless. The letter is from Frank, dated 3 months ago, long before he got sick, and it reads, "Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and there's something else you need to know. The man you thought was your father, the one who raised you, he didn't die in a car accident like we told you. He killed himself. He found out about your mother and me, and he couldn't live with it. Your mother and I, we couldn't tell you the truth. We thought we were protecting you, but you deserve to know. I'm sorry for every lie. I'm sorry for what our choices cost him, and I'm sorry for the burden of this truth, but it's yours now. Frank." Marcus and I just stare at each other. All of it, everything we thought we understood about that Thanksgiving, about Frank's deathbed confession, it was just the surface. There was another layer underneath, darker and more complicated. "He knew," Marcus says, finally. "He knew he was going to tell me. He planned it." I don't know what to say. "Maybe he needed to get it off his chest before he died," I offer. Marcus shakes his head. "Or maybe he wanted to make sure I'd never forget him. Maybe this was his way of making sure that even after he was gone, he'd still be the most important thing in my life." I realized then that Frank's confession wasn't about honesty or redemption. It was about control, one final act of making sure Marcus's life would revolve around him even in death. It's manipulative and cruel and heartbreaking all at once. Marcus burns the letter. We agree never to tell Helen about it. But sometimes late at night, I catch Marcus staring into space, and I know he's thinking about it, about all the secrets, about how the people who are supposed to love you can hurt you in ways you never see coming. That's the real story, not just about a missing husband or a dying father or a family secret. It's about how the truth can be a weapon, how love and manipulation look identical if you squint, how even when you think you know someone, there's always another room in the house you haven't opened yet. And sometimes maybe it's better to leave those doors closed, but once they're open, you can't unknow what's inside. Marcus and I, we're okay now. We're working through it. But I'll never forget that Thanksgiving, the one where I came home and found my husband gone, left alone with a dying man who had one last secret to tell, a secret that changed everything.